Dripped up and draped out, UCF's new uniforms are hot fire.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for making Locked On UCF your first listen of every single day. Joining me as he does every single week is my good friend, Andrew Gluchov. Andrew covers UCF sports better than anybody I know. And today, we're going to be covering the new uniforms that just dropped. We're going to talk about which one is the best and the future of changing uniforms, as it seems to be a hot topic in college sports. Let's talk about the updated uniforms. You had a little bit of a story before we started recording about Scott Frost and these uniforms. Before we jump into what they look like, talk to us, Andrew, about Scott Frost and the last time he promised to deliver updated unis.
Well, when Frost was hired in 2016, he got together with his buddy Phil Knight over at Nike. And if you don't know who Phil Knight is, go look him up. He basically runs Nike. Anyway, UCF basically got the Oregon treatment for the 2016 season. Basically, they had custom templates made from the ground up, very UCF centric. Most highlighted was the sublimated Pegasus sleeves, which have been a hit ever since, and came out with great new uniforms. They had 4 different color combinations that they can use under multiple helmet shells, and it opened a whole world from a very conservative style that George O'Leary had to this new age style that Scott Frost was bringing. And Frost said, don't get used to them because we're going to have new uniforms in 2 years. Well, unfortunately, 2 years come and go and he leaves. So UCF stuck with those uniforms for a few years, ends up with that template all the way through 2021. And in 22 comes out with the new template. Not as popular. UCF changed their font to something in-house and was a much more minimalist design. So now we have the 2025 uniforms, which for them, as I said, is their look back to the past as they look towards the future. And if you look at UCF Space Game uniforms, you see the innovation and the meticulousness that the uniform and equipment management team has for designing these. And as we'll get to, UCF was very meticulous and deliberate in the pieces that they put into these uniforms. They took parts from the 98 team with Dante Culpepper, and the 2013 team with Blake Bortles, and the 17 team with McKenzie Milton, and mixed that with some modern stuff that they had in this last generation to create something brand new to look forward. And the fact that Scott Frost comes back and new uniforms are here, it should not surprise anyone. The only thing that I can suggest people is don't get too comfortable with them, because expect UCF's uniform evolution to become much more frequent.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, a new coach deserves a new uniform. Scott Frost promised to deliver. 8 years later, he came back to Orlando just to deliver on his promise. Let's take a look at these uniforms. They are super extra drippy. It's a new era. This is the new era of UCF football from a uniform standpoint. These are sharp, man. Like, look, I was impressed when we checked these out, when they posted these to the Twitter account. UCF football posted them, and the UCF equipment account posted them. I was very impressed. And sometimes, Andrew, it's just subtle changes that you may not notice that make all the difference. We've got a comparison here, kind of a close-up that they posted. The equipment account posted this to show you. On the left is the new font, and on the right is the old font. Talk to me a little bit about this subtle change that just makes this so great.
Well, I'm going to first talk about the one that smacks you in the face, and that's the size of the numbers. And that was something that really did not sit well with fans when they switched from the 16 template to the 2022 template. They went with a font that they developed in-house. That was UCF's design font, and just it didn't really catch on all that well. There are some people who will admit anything looks beautiful if UCF comes up with it, but the truth is, this was a very polarizing font that just didn't really pick. And because of its size, it looks good on a basketball uniform, but it just didn't really click all that well on a football uniform where you need something large. One of the things that they did is they brought back shadow numbers. The shadow numbering was done back in the Culpepper days. You don't see that too much anymore. It's kind of a retro style there. Then they brought back some of the edges of the fonts that were used in 2013 and 2017, and the supplement Pegasus that's been used since 2016 has been replaced with Pegasus wings that were used in the 2023 space game uniform. So there's an evolution there. One of the really cool things is something that the uniform team, the equipment staff pointed out, but it's not something you would notice unless you actually looked at it close. And they have little Pegasus stars within the number themselves. It's a small little thing, but again, you'd have to look at it up close. And if you go to the UCF equipment Twitter page or UCF football, they have closer up pictures that you can look at that show this. And it's just a very subtle nuance that I really appreciate it. UCF, when they do their space games, are very meticulous. Every detail has a meaning and a story, and I think they took that to heart to apply this style. There was the previous one was very minimalist. They took out TV numbers, the numbers on the shoulders. A lot of people didn't like that. They put those back in. Message received. They're back. I think that's a major improvement. It took no effort whatsoever. But the fact that they took fan engagement, they brought pieces from UCF's history, because as we know, UCF's football history is not particularly long. First team was in 1979. They made it to the FBS, then 1A in 1996, and the history is just very small, so it's very condensed. And to bring pieces of their most successful runs, I think is something that is going to resonate really well with the fans, especially the fact the numbers are larger. They're not that smushed in font. I just think they kind of hit all the right parts in this one that they missed on the last one.
Yeah, look, they're sharp, and as you kind of just mentioned, the devil is in the details. It's subtle changes that when you add them all together, it can make for an absolutely fire uniform. I love these uniforms. But look, which style hits the hardest? Which one of these hits that right spot? We'll talk about that right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Rougit. That's right, Rougit. Yeah, guys, you probably heard of the Viagra or Cialis, or maybe even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougit Ready. Rougit is the next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the unusual pill that can take hours, Rougit's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, so you can start using that tongue for other stuff. But look, 15 minutes later, bam, you're ready to go. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and can control when the moment is right. Head to Rougit.com/lockedon and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's Rougit, RUGIT.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Rougit. Welcome back to Locked On UCF. After that,
Let's follow that.
um, Andrew, which style of uniform do you like best? I'm gonna pull this back up here. Talk to me, man. These things are sharp. So on the right, you can kind of see the uniform helmet combinations laid out there for everybody. What do you think, man? Which one of these do you like the best?
I've always been partial to black uniforms. I think a gold helmet goes great with it, especially when UCF redid their gold helmet. It fits really well with kind of a retro style that they did for homecoming last year, which was the logo when I went to school there. So it was very cool to see. I would prefer the black top, black bottom with the gold lids. I think that hits real well. And the thing is, UCF also has a lot of decal, maneuverability. I think the black Knight script on both sides of that gold lid would look really, really sharp with that black uniform. As you can see, much like in the 2022 revamp, they only have a black and a white. I know there's a lot of people who want gold uniforms, but gold uniforms suck and they had no business being at UCF. So thankfully the equipment staff still gets it and did not create those. But if you look at the far right, the black top, black bottom with the gold lids is just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you, but hear me out on this one.
Oh boy.
The blacked out with the black helmet is probably my favorite. All black everything, Andrew? Come on, man. That thing, you're Batman. You are Batman with a UCF degree and that blacked out black helmet, black uniform. That thing is extra fire, man. And look, throw some gold shoes on there, and I think that thing would be absolutely humming, man. I love these. I love all the potential here. Let's state the obvious. UCF has great school colors. They have phenomenal school colors. Do you agree? I mean, obviously you agree, but and maybe we're biased, but I think they have great school colors. You got colors you can kind of like wear with everything. It's subtle, but can be bold at times. I think that's what these uniforms kind of provide you a lot of flexibility, man. I love it, but the all black everything's woo, man. I'm telling you, that does it for me. Makes me want to pop a real geek.
I don't know about that, but the truth is, I think the all black with the black lids is great, like a Halloween time. Like if you can, create a custom decal to kind of be a little more intimidating, I think would be really, really cool to do as a one-off thing. And UCF's not afraid of going one-off on their helmet decals. They do something special for for their military game. Obviously the space game, enough said. But they've also, back when UCF played South Florida, they would also come out with some unique, helmet decals that they've put on. So I would not put it past the equipment staff, who's just on point with this one, in being able to come up with a really cool decal idea that they could make very intimidating for a game close to Halloween time. And then you got the space game against Houston, later this year, where, we don't know what they're going to come up with, but I'm sure it's going to be something really good, because they, while some have been better than others, they never truly missed on one of those designs. And if this new uniform is any indication of the time that they've put into it, I think, we're going to get a treat later this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, new coach, new era, new uniforms. I love it. Let's take another look here before we move on here. These are your new football uniforms, UCF fans. I absolutely love it. Nike killed it with these color combinations, with the designs. Everything hits so hard. I can't stress enough, man. That black on black, you could see it there on the left here with him kind of crouching, his arms crossed. That's hard, Andrew. That's hard. That look is hard. I love it.
I sense a little jealousy there that maybe that other school of yours does not have these wonderful black on black uniforms with even a black or a gold helmet. I guess there's some envy there.
Well, look, I can't do anything about the colors, but the company that makes them is coming there as well too. So hopefully we see some great things throughout college football. Speaking of which, uniforms are such a big part of the game, and some old heads think it's silly, but this kind of stuff is important to recruits. How often should universities switch it up, and how big a role does it play in recruiting? We'll talk about that next on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your personal CFO, giving full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. And I don't know about you, but I like having all my stuff in one place so that I have easy access to everything. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building wealth. Start over. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at Monarch Money for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Andrew, how often should they switch it up? And how important is this to recruits? How important should it be to recruits? I can tell you, now with the advent of social media, we are seeing more and more where recruits will come in, and what do? What's the first thing they do in those videos?
They try it on the threads.
They put the uniform on the man. They put the helmet on them. They do these flashy videos. They let them experience what it would be like to suit up, lace up, and helmet out every single Saturday for UCF or whatever school they're being recruited to. This is an important but subtle part that can help recruiting when a UCF recruit can look into the camera, look into the monitor, look into the mirror, see himself in the threads, man, and say, yes, I want to be a UCF Knight.
Yeah, here's the thing. We're in the age of, even though that we're in a new era of NIL, it's about branding. Players are creating their own brands. Well, it's also important wearing good brands. Look at all the national champions over the last 20 years. They're almost all Nike schools. There is a heavy disproportionate, success factor for Nike schools versus other brands. And these athletic directors aren't stupid. They're not oblivious. They know. UCF started working with Nike in 2010, and while the deal wasn't great, it came in handy at a time when they really needed it, and they've been able to build on that relationship over time. And while they're not one of their top customers, and they probably never will be, but the relationship between UCF and Nike is strong. At one point, UCF was looking at other options, but has decided while they could have maybe made some more money elsewhere, branding matters. UCF's very big on establishing, branding, and having Nike in your corner goes a long way. Kids care about what they wear. That's a huge part of recruiting. As you said, one of the first things they do is they put on the threads, get a cool little photo shoot, with the helmet on, without the helmet on, but that matters. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. So UCF does need to keep fresh. This isn't, Penn State or Alabama or one of those schools that just never has to change their uniform. UCF views themselves much more like the Oregon of the East. where they want to change the uniform and change it often. Yeah, at this point, it's more of a resource issue than anything else. But with Scott Frost there, we might be able to see this happen more often. Kids like change. They like, these new threads. They like Nike. And you can get all these ingredients together, that's going to help with recruiting. I think every 2 to 3 years, you should change the uniforms up. You don't, even though you might have a great template, it does get stale. And some people who may, be, fanboys or fangirls of, the 2016 template, which was great. However, it was designed on an outdated uniform template itself, the actual material and all that jazz. So, I mean, there does need to be a degree of constant evolution to stay on top of the technology aspect that the players utilize, because the quality of the equipment matters. When UCF was with Adidas, there were complaints about, some of the uniform aspects, some of the shoes and some of the other gear. So if they can at least stay on top of the going trends, even if they make subtle uniform changes, but stay just on top of those trends, I think will go a long way to help with the recruiting aspect.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that you've got to stay ahead of these things. And again, quite frankly, there are a lot of old heads who don't understand this throughout college football. And this is what I think is so great about UCF having a young, more modern kind of alumni base, more so than a lot of their peers in the Power 4 level, right? UCF has got a very, very good young fan base that understands why these things are important, and not just a fan base, an alumni base that understands it, so that you're not hiding behind tradition to wear outdated uniforms that, quite frankly, just don't look good anymore, or they're nostalgic. But if kids care about these things, why not? You have talked a lot on this show about the money handicap that UCF has in NIL and other places where they're trying to catch up. Don't give yourself one more hurdle to jump over. This is an easy one, right? Switch the uniforms up. You've signed with Nike and you've got great colors, so why not use them, man? Why not style it out? Because I can tell you, not every school has great colors. Let's be real. Not all schools are created equal on this front. In my book, UCF leads the pack. They got great school colors, and they go with black goes with everything, baby. Black goes with everything. So I love it. You love it. Get yourself some Rugeet and then manage your money and come on back to Locked On UCF tomorrow. Great conversation, Andrew, as always. We're going to get out of here, guys, but thank you so much for making us your first listen of every day. If you're listening to this on podcast or on YouTube, guys, we are so close to 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Me, Locked On UCF, and my day one here, Andrew Gluchov. Help push us over. Tell someone about Locked On UCF. Always hit like and subscribe on the channel. And after you're done doing that, do us a favor. Make your second listen Locked On the Portal. Our guy Brian Smith has the latest in rumors and college football trends, portal entries, signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to college football. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Find us here tomorrow on Locked On UCF.